Sanhedrin, we're going to start from 17 lines from the bottom of Chav Dalit Amid Beis. We're starting the Mishnah of Eilahin Apsul, and these are those that are apostle to judge and to testify. One who plays dice, meaning whoever wins with the dice collects the money. Somebody who lends for interest, and the pigeon flyers. The Gemara will explain, and those that do business with shviyas. Of course, are not considered as a gazlan min HaTorah, because a gazlan min HaTorah means that he grabs from his friend. But here we're not talking about his friend gave it to him, but they gave it unwillingly. And the same thing is with Seichel Shviyas. We say that the Isser is because the Torah says, Lachem la'achla, it should only be to eat, have a leilas, not for business. And since the whole reason that he's being able on the Isser of selling the praise of Shviyas is because of his lust of money, that puts him in the same category as Mesach Bekubia, and therefore he's going to be puzzled to judge and to testify. Originally they were called Shviyas gatherers, but when the oppressors increased, they went back to calling them the business people who do business with Pesach Shviyas. When those people who play dice puzzled to judge and to say, hey, this is Elahu, in a time when they don't have any other trade except for playing dice. So in such a case, they're unacquainted with basic business law, and therefore they have no problem averting the right way, the right laws, and going against and doing the wrong thing. But if they have other businesses aside from that, then they're going to be kosher. Somebody who's playing dice, what did he do to be puzzled to judge and to testify? Because this is something that they're relying on the outcome, and will be, of course, favorable for them that he won't have to pay. And once he loses and he's paying, he never thought he's going to pay. So he was relying that he was going to win. And when he loses and relying that he was going to win and he was going to have to pay, and now he has to pay, it's not a kinyan. It's considered as gzeila, because he didn't give it wholeheartedly. Rav Yossi says this is not the regular case of asmachta. What is a case of asmachta? So the Rashi brings a case of it we had before, like somebody was working in a friend's field, and he makes a tanai with the owner. He says, I'm not going to leave this field unworked. I'm not going to leave it fallow. And if I do, he says, I'll pay you, you won't have to pay me anything. Or somebody who owes of somebody $1,000, and he paid already $333. He paid a third of it. And he says, he gives it to the sholish to hold the shtar, and he says, if I don't come back by this time to pay the rest of the chayv, then I would have to pay the whole chayv, and it's as if I never even paid that third. So that's called, he mamish thought he's not going to fall through. He thought for sure he's going to work the field in the first case, or he thought for sure he's going to pay it on time. But over here it says this is not an asmachta, because he knew that there's a chance he's not going to win. Only the reason, so this is not, you can't say because he thought he's going to win. It's not, no chance. Over here, he knew that there's a chance that he's going to lose. So you can't say his whole mind was that for sure he was going to win, and that's why he never intended to give it. No, he knew he might lose. And that's why it's not a smachta. This case, not a smachta. What's the reason that the apostle to testify? And we have to say, when he gave the money, he gave it wholeheartedly, knowing that he can lose. What's the reason that the apostle to testify and be that? Only because they're not acquainted with the basic business and commerce. What's the chenaf lemaisa? If you say it's because of a smachta, or you say because lefishein asukim be yeshuv shalaylam, the difference will be the gama umnas achriti. It's a case where this guy, besides playing dice, he has other trades and knows about commerce, knows about business law. So if you say he knows about business law, he's eligible. But if you say that it's because of an asmachta that he relied that he was going to win, so he didn't give it willingly, then he's puzzled. Sagt die Gemara, I'll bring you right to have sheishes that it's not considered as asmachta. The time that we learned the Mishnah, Rabbi Yehuda, in our Mishnah, Rabbi Yehuda say, Masai, when is playing dice, puzzle, bisman shein lohem, umanis, only when he doesn't have any other trade. Elahu, only the trade of playing dice. But if he has other trades that other than just playing dice, shame they're eligible. So we see the fetish that the reason of our Mishnah they passel only because of that they're unacquainted with the basic business and commerce. But if they would have had another trade that they're acquainted with, then they would be eligible. He says the whole psul is because it's an asmachta. He relied that he was going to win, and when he lost, he didn't intend to really be makna the money that he owes. And maybe you're going to say, okay, the Chacham argue with Rabbi Yehuda. Only Rabbi Yehuda is machsher if he has another trade, but the Chacham argue and say it's possible because of a smachta, because he thought for sure he's going to win. He never intended to have to give money. Every place where Rabbi Yehuda says the word Masai Ubameh Ein Eba El Lafarish, he's only coming to explain the words of the Chachamim and not to argue on them. Rabbi Yechnama, in a place where Rabbi Yehuda says Masai is Lafarish, it comes to explain. But when it says Bameh, meaning Bameh Devarim Mabunim, that's where Lachlik he's coming to argue. The Kuli Alma, everybody agrees the Lashon Masai that Rabbi Yehuda said in our Mishnah is Lafarish, is to explain the Chachamim who. So if so, it's impossible that Rabbi Yehuda arguing our Mishnah by the din of Masach Lekuvia. It's obvious that the whole reason is because of that he's not acquainted. He's not acquainted with the basic law and commerce, and not because of a smachta. So the Gemara shlugs up. Is what are you asking from Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi on Rabbi Bachama? Mas of a pligi. Rabbi Bachama holds that when Rabbi Yehuda said a Masai, there's a machlekes between on Rabbi Yehuda that the Chama hold differently, and that's why Rabbi Bachama said according to the Chachamim of our Mishnah, Mesach Lekuvia is possible because of a smachta, and he never intended to really be. He never intended that he's going to have to pay the money. So since he never intended, so when he pays the money, he's not giving it wholeheartedly. He's considered as a gazlan. And it's possible even if he has another trade and he's acquainted with basic law. Not like Rabbi Yehuda who says, if he's acquainted with basic law, he's eligible. But Rabbi Shua ben Levi holds, and not arguing. Rabbi Yehuda has explained the words of the Chacham. According to him, even the Chacham hold, Mesachi v'Kuvia is possible only because he's not acquainted with basic law and he's not acquainted with basic law and commerce. And if he has another trade, kosher, he's going to be kosher because then he's eligible. He is acquainted. The Gemara is on Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi and Rabbi Yochanan that when Rabbi Yehuda says a Masai, it's not a machlekes between him and the Chachamim. It's not a machlekes between him and the Chachamim, between Rabbi Yehuda and the Chachamim when he says a Masai. Well, Tanya, we finished the Brais, but the gay is somebody playing dice. Whether he has another trade, so whether he doesn't have another trade, Elahu, only his whole trade is playing dice, and he's a puzzle, he's still going to be puzzled even if he has acquaintance, even if he has another trade. So you see befedish that the psul is because of a smachta. That even Rabbi Yehuda in our Mishnah, when he says a Masai, so you see that there's a shita that says that the psul is because of a smachta, meaning that the Chacham will hold it's because of a smachta versus Rabbi Yehuda who says no. So that's not mechalik between if he has another trade or not. It's not the opinion of Chacham of our Mishnah. And saying that the Chacham hold that the psul is of asmachta. Ela Rabbi Yehuda mishum Rabbi Tafni. It's a third shita that says the psul of one playing dice is considered as asmachta, but the Chacham of our Mishnah hold the psul is because he's not acquainted with the basic law and commerce. And according to Rabbi Yeshua and Levi Rabbi Yechden, who say a Masai that Rabbi Yehuda says, is coming to explain the words of the Chachamim. So they're not arguing. So the Gemara now brings a Baraisa from which we can prove that Rabbi Tarfon holds that the reason is of the psul of Masach Mekuvia is because of a smachta. The Tanya we learned in Baraisa that there were two people sitting, and in front of them, one person went away, was passing by with long hair. So one of them said to the other, he says, I'm a nazir if that person who was passing before us is a nazir. And his friend said, I'm a nazir if that person who's passing before us is not a nazir. Neither of them are going to be a nazir. Even one of them has to be a nazir. But we say neither of them. Because the din of the Nesidos was only when it was in Eifim Vade. It was they were saying it as a Vade, not as a suffix. If the guy in front of us is another, that's not a Vade. So you see from Rabbi Tarfon, if it's relying on something that you're not sure, so it's not a Eifim Vade, that's called an Asmachta. And he wasn't really intending to become a Nazir. Same thing by Masach Mekuvia. He thought he's for sure going to win, and he never intended to lose. So when he loses, he never intended to have to pay the money. So therefore, it shouldn't be a kinyan. So we have a raya like Rabbi Tarfon. Somebody who learns with interest. Somebody who loves it is pasleides. Even the one that borrowed the money is Eiva, and whoever's Eiva on Aveda because of a lust for money, he's considered as a rasha. And it says, Al tashes yatche im rasha liseitchan. You shouldn't join with a rasha to become a aid. So you can't join with a rasha that the rasha should be aid with you. How do you come off with saying a loiva, a borrower? Well, now we learn malvabidibis puzzle. We learn only with one who lends. So the Gemara, it's not. Don't read it malva, but read it milva hababidibis. Read a loan that comes to ribis, which includes side the malva and the loiva, that they're both puzzle. The Gemara brings a story. Babi Nisus, as he debated Trey Sadeh. Babi Nisus, two Adam testified to puzzle him. La'edas Chadama, one aid said, "Coming to the Eisveri Visa." In front of me, he lent money, beribis. Chadama, one aid says, "La'edi Eisveri Visa." He lent me money with ribis. Pasle Rabba Leba Benisus. They Rabba Pasel Babi Nisus to be a aid. Like the Gemara about Rabba who. The Amma love Benibis Paslaidis, but Rabbi said the one who borrows Benibis is also Paslaidis. If so, the second aid is a Rasha by saying he borrowed the money from him. Why should we trust him? How could it be an aid to testify against Babinisus if he's saying he actually borrowed Benibis? And Rabbi goes according to his reason. A person is a karev to himself, and just like he cannot testify on a relative, whether it's l'schus l'chayva, so too he cannot testify on himself, whether it's l'schus l'chayva. And the ain't other meismatz made rasha, and a person cannot pass himself to testifying that he's a rasha, and therefore the second aid is not believed to pass himself. We say palgina de Buddha. We say that he did borrow beribas, but he wasn't the one that bought beribas. So here you have a raya that milva haba beribas is even the leiva is oiva is oiva on the Isa Ribus, and he's pasleidas. So you might have the nafke treifta mitusni yidei. There was this one butcher that they found that he was selling treifes in disguise that all his meat is kosher. Pasal Rav Nachman pasal him from being able to testify because it was mashal of others to eat treifes. He was able to allow because of a loss of money, and if it's because of a loss of money, he's considered a rasha, and therefore they made him pasleidas. And they removed him from being a butcher because he lost his namanos. Azal, this butcher went, Rabbi Maziva Tufare, he allowed it, he let his hair and his nails grow to do tshuva. So Rav Nachman shouldn't. Rav Nachman thought, okay, it looks like he's doing tshuva. Maybe he's only doing a trick to make himself look like about tshuva, but he never really did tshuva. Elamaita kante. So what's going to be the takana of this butcher, in order that we should believe that he taka did tshuva? So Gemara, kider Rav Ida Rabbavan, no Rav Ida Rabbavan, hachosh ala treif zein takana. Somebody who's suspected on treif is he has no takana until he goes to a place where nobody recognizes him. And it will happen that he'll find something very valuable and he'll return it. Or he'll own an animal and the animal will be treif and he'll throw it away and say it's treif. If such a case happens, so since he's ready to lose that kind of money, so surely then in that case we're going to say he did tshuva and he has no more lust of money. He's not ready to do things to be Eiban Aved because of lust of money. We said flying pigeons. What is the shot of Mafrichayan, flying pigeons? Tiguma in Babel, they explain that it's people make a bet. If your pigeon will run ahead of my pigeon, I'll give you this and this amount of money. Somebody who raises a pigeon and he teaches it to attract other pigeons from other places to come to his coat. Take it away from other dovcuts and bring the pigeons to his dovcuts. So it's considered as gezel. According to the one that says that that if your bird will come before my bird, I'll give you this and this amount. My time, what's the reason? Why does he want to use the pshat that it's a pigeon that he raised to still bring other pigeons from far away places? It's not considered gezel gomam. It's only for Darkei Shalom, meaning that the Balei Ashuvach that they took from other people, since they're coming on their own to his dovecot, he's not really stealing, and it doesn't belong to anybody. Chacham asked him in order to avoid machlekesim between different owners of dovcots, and since it's only because of Darkei Shalom, and he's being over on something that Chacham instituted for Darkei Shalom because of a lust of money, therefore they parceled him le'egas. And the one that says that's is megadol to steal from others. My time why does he want to learn the pshat of mafrichayin is itikad me yoyin? If your pigeon will go ahead of my pigeon, I'll give you this and this amount. He'll say to you, I know this category that parcels Mesach Mikuvia. That's the same case of Mesach Mikuvia, that he plays dice. It's mamish the same case, and he hopes that he's going to win, and therefore he's not ready to give away the money wholeheartedly. So there we said he's pasulatus. This is very similar, same thing with the pigeons. He thinks his pigeon will win. So the one that argues the Chachmei Bavel Tana, so what is he going to answer? I'm sorry. The Gemara now explains according to the opinion who argues. He'll say Tana, the Mishnah is different. It's a smachta til b'das atzmai. That's Mesach Mikubia. He thinks he's playing the dice, so he's in control of the dice, fully controlled. So he thinks for sure he's going to win. But Tana, and then he learns the kind of a smachta shul til b'das yaina. We need both cases. The Tana til b'das atzmai. If you're going to talk about by Mesach Mikubia the dice, hasam hu the legam makne. There for sure he didn't intend to completely be maknet, because the Amma, he says, listen, Kim Li. I'm very skillful with the dice, and he knows for sure that he's going to win. So therefore, when he loses, he's not giving a wholeheartedly. But maybe when it comes to a pigeon winning a race, he's going to win. He knows that he might lose. So there, I would say he was gamo maknele. That's why he's come to tell you now that it's still considered paslei this, and he's not gamo maknele. And if you're going to say he's Taylor with that only that case, the Amma, he'll say, oh dear, I have full control. It's Benakosha Talyam, it depends on how hard you knock in a certain way, and it gets very pitchy and it makes the pigeon run faster. But he says, I have a skillful way of knocking it and making sure that my pigeon will win. I will tell you that's when it comes to playing dice, you can't say Emalei. He'll say maybe I might not get it right. So it's not considered as an asmachta. That's why the Mishnah has to teach us. In both cases, it's considered as asmachta. He never intended to really lose, and when he loses, he never intended to really give the money. And therefore, it's like gazlanos, and he's puzzled to be a dayan and a aid. That said, mafricha yainim are those that he raises it to attract other pigeons from other places. Is those that play with cubes, wooden cubes. They didn't only say by cubes, wooden cubes, that even with the shells of nuts and pomegranates, even though it's not made for this type of bedding, but nevertheless, if they use it as dyes, when is it considered that they did shuvah? Only when they break the cubes, and they do a complete shuvah. And the Gemara says that, and the Gemara adds that they wouldn't even play for no money. Meaning they wouldn't even play the game where there's no money involved. They wouldn't even attempt to play at all, even if where there's no money. Okay, but it's the lender or the borrower. And when is it considered that they did a real tshuva from ribis yikru? When they rip up the stars that they have that they lent ribis, and they do a complete tshuva. Meaning, he interjects and he says, they wouldn't even lend a goy, even though it's mutter to lend a goy beribas. They wouldn't even lend a goy beribas to do a tshuva from lending a yisol beribas. So they have to, in order to be a real tshuva, they have to withhold from even lending a goy beribas, in order that the whole concept of beribas should be removed from their mind. Mafricha yoinim elo shamamrim sayenim. Mafricha yoinim are those that make the pigeons, they entice it, they rates on the yoinim to go fight with each other. But like they didn't only say it by pigeons, even by behema chayva'ev, which is not common, are still those people that play with it are going to be pasleids or to be a dime. When is it a true tshuva? When they break these boards that cause the pigeons to run, that's when the tshuva is done. And they do a full retraction. Even in the midbar, where you don't find that pigeons which have baitlim, meaning that you don't find, it's unlikely to find pigeons that nest in cotes belonging to private individuals in the midbar. Nevertheless, they don't, they won't do this. Okay, so is those that do business shviyas. These are the people that do business with pastries. When is the true tshuva to be kosher? When the new shviyas comes in, and they'll distance themselves from the Isa Shviyas. They won't do any business with the Pesach Shviyas, and they'll make their gardens hefker for the Aniyim, and allow them to collect the payers that are growing there. It's not enough that they should retract with words, that they're not going to sin anymore. That they will give out money to the Aniyim, their money, and they will give out the Pesach Shviyas that they gathered from their gardens to the Aniyim. That's considered a true tshuva. Ani pleni ba pleni kinasti. I gathered the worth of Masayim zuz bePesach Shviyas. I gathered 200 zuz of Pesach Shviyas from my garden. And here, behold, I am spreading it and giving it as a gift to the Aniyim. Sagt die Gemara, we learned al kapanim b'naisa that even a behemoth is shaykh the psul of mafrichen yonim bishlam leman de abba mafrichen yonim are refers to eat gam yonim that if your bird will come before my bird to the goal, I will pay you. That you can find even by behemoth. But if you can say African is one who raises these pigeons to attract pigeons from faraway places to come to his call, the dove called behema bas hachihu. Could a behema bring with her other behemoths to its house? The chayis that are on the way will be raidif, will kill the whole herd. And you want to in, it's shy. B'shoy habar, by a wild with a wild ox. Like the Braisa says that the one who says that a wild ox is a domesticated min behema, a domesticated animal, so over there, that's who he holds like. The one that says it's a domesticated animal. That we learned in the Braisa, a Mishnah, that shoy habar min behema, that a sherabar, a wild ox, is a domesticated animal. It is a wild animal. So the shaila is if it's a min behema min chaya, it's only going to get to the is of chaylev. The chaylev of a behema is asba chaylev, but the chaylev of a chaya is mutter. And also going to get kisadam, somebody who shechs a chaya has to cover the blood with sand. But the behema doesn't need kisa; it doesn't need the covering. Tana, we learned in the Braisa Sif Aleim, they added on the psulim that we learned in the Mishnah Gazlanim v'Chamsonim. Chamson is somebody who takes the chayfetz away from the bailim, and then he throws him money. He says, "Okay, here's your money." And the Rabbanim passed even a chamson to testify or to be a dayan. For example, what a Gazlan midaraisa or Gazlan is a psul midaraisa because it says al toshes rasha 8. Do not make a rasha 8. So why does the Braisa say that Chacham passled him? It's midaraisa that it's possible. And we add that we're talking about a Gazlan which is only a psul rabbanim. Which one? El mitzias chereshet v'kotten, or not a mitzia that a chereshet v'kotten that found that they're not b'nei deya, and their kinyan is not a kinyan, so they were never zeichen to the mitzia. So a gazlan that steals from them is over midrabanan. It's because of Dakin Shalom. We said you shouldn't be able to grab from them. And not Yomar is going to explain why these edus are not possible mitchila. Because to begin with, the Chacham thought, don't passel them. It says because it's so uncommon. So you don't have to make a gzeira that somebody who steals from the Chashek V'Katan should be possible. And that's why I would have thought they shouldn't be possible. Inami, or I could say they didn't pass them because it's not Gezel Gomer. It's just for Dakei Shalom that they shouldn't make the Chashek V'Katan angry. Even the Chazul, the safe, but since the Chacham understood that these grabbers are grabbing and are being over on the Chacham because of the lust for money, Paslin Rabbanan. So therefore the Chacham passed them to testify and to be a judge in such a case because they're chashud that they'll testify falsely or they'll judge falsely. Chamsonim says you want to make koras over the make domikayav. At the beginning, the Chacham thought, since they're giving money, these Chamsonim, to the owners, they're paying for what they grab, and they're not stealing bechinam, ikrei v'amahu. So we'll say this is it's just an incident, and we shouldn't be chesed that he'll be over b'negei teidus sheker, that he'll lie, he'll testify falsely in testimony or judge falsely. Even the chazul, but since the Chacham saw the kachatvi, they grab the chayfetz against the will of the bailam first, and then they throw him the money. And so when they grabbed it, it was in a time when the bailam didn't want to sell it. So you see, even if they gave them the money, nevertheless we can skirsh b'hem rabbanon paslu. The rabbanon will geizer and passel them. We learned in the Braisa again, since the Chacham saw that they grabbed first against the will and then they throw the money. So then, therefore, the Chachamim passel them. Tana, we learned on these psulim that when we mentioned the Mishnah, Arayim, the shepherds, because they allow the animals to eat from other people's fields. Agabayim, the Memunim, that from the kings that were appointed to collect taxes, so they overtax. We'll soon talk about Musim, the custom collectors. It says at the beginning, Chachamim thought that the behemoth goes into the other fields. It's just by an incident, but it's not usual. The shepherd it wasn't miskaven to eat from other people's fields. But even the chazu, the kamachavim, but once the chacham saw that these shepherds are mechavim and sent the behemoths to pasture in other people's fields, because we're abanon to pass them from le'edus. Yomar now explains the other two psulim, hagabayim amuchsin, the tax collectors and the custom collectors. At the beginning, Chachamim thought they're collecting only the exact amount which the government told them. So we didn't pass them. But even the chazu, the kashakli yisera, paslino. But since the Chachamim saw that they're taking more than was set aside to take away, so they passed them from being able to be saying testimony of being from being a judge. Okay. Sagt die Gemara, Amar Rabba said, whether it's a shepherd of small behemoths or whether it's a shepherd of big behemoths, the din is both apostle to testify or be judges. In fact, did the Rabba then say that? A shepherd of the small animals apostle this, but the chutzlar is kshenim. But in chutzlar they're kosher. So the Chachamu Machma been again to shepherds in Eretz Yisrael that they were masakin to withhold them from any kilkul because of the mila of Yishuv Eretz Yisrael. Meaning because of Yishuv Eretz Yisrael, they didn't want the Chachamim were geizer raising sheep or goats near settled areas, because since they'll go into strange fields. And then you have, but chutzlars they allowed it. But when it comes to behema gasa, then they said that even in Eretz Yisrael it's eligible, because Rava didn't disqualify them because we don't have to worry about the big animals. Obviously, we didn't have to worry that they're going to gaze in other people's fields. They would watch them. So you have a stira to what Rabbi said, that he says Raya Baka Psulim, Shneim Psulim, whether it's Behema Gasa or Behema Daka. And here you say that the Kshenim, the Behema Gasa says, they were talking about raising behemoths in their houses. And this Rabbi said somebody raises small houses in their houses, and that's as all as possible, because at times it runs into the neighboring fields. But somebody who raises Behema Gasa in his house is kosher, because Behema Gasa is not accustomed to running away, and you can watch it. So this previous Maimah, when we said that Rav Apostles is by a Raya who leads his animals to the place of pasturing, and there they passled the Raya even of a Behema Gasa, because there, when you're going between fields, it would allow that you're going to other people's fields. So too, it's reasonable to say, says Gemara, that from this that we learned in the Mishnah, alai shloisha reibaka, that you need a special Kabbalah for Baladinim to be believed. My love, aren't we talking about Eidus, Le'edus? And Reibaka, Absalom, Le'edus, if they didn't accept the Baldin, so it's mashma for only if they accepted them as Edis, that they're going to be Edis. But if they didn't accept them as Edis, then they're not. Says Gemara, no, we're not talking about accepting the Rei Baka as Edis, rather Ladina, to judge, that they were Makabal Dayan to judge. On this, everybody agrees they're puzzle because they're not Baka Bedin. And so from here, you have no raya that Rei Baka is puzzle Edis. It's talking about to puzzle to judge because they're not bucking the dinim. I'll bring you a raya. We're talking about ledina as a judge. The Ketani, because it says shloisha rayabaka. It says not 3 rayabaka. If you're talking about to accept them as edus, shloisha lamali. Why do you need 3? Le'edus is enough 2. Obviously, for edus they're kosher. It's only to be judges. They're going to be puzzle because they're not bucking the din. So what are we going to say? What does it say? We finish the mission that's talking about that they were makabel them ledina. My area shleisha rayabaka. Why does it have to be 3 rayabaka? Kol beit lasen loigamedina nami. Why do you have to say that it was because they were rayabaka? That's why they were unacceptable as judges. It has nothing to do with being herds. Shepherds. You could say any person who's a layman and doesn't know is not bakibedin, also puzzledin. This is what he's saying. Even these that are uncommon beyishu, meaning they didn't see, they didn't hear, they know nothing. These are just shepherds. But if they were accepted as dayanim, according to Chachamim, they cannot retract. Rav Yehuda said, "Stam raya pasal eidus. Stam raya is pasal eidus. Stam gabay kosher." A stam gabi is kosher, and very simple. So the Yad Emek explains what's the difference, because by herders, they work out in the fields, and it's far from the public eye, so it's impossible to check if they're committing suspicious activities. So therefore, the Rabbanan disqualified them. Tax collector, you're going to hear a student from the people. Stop over. The Gemara is now going to talk about a righteous tax collector. Abzeida's father was a tax collector for 13 years. When the chief of the town would come to assess how much taxes should be given, if Abzeida's father would see the Chacham in the street, he would say to them, "Go, my people, go hide." When he would see regular townspeople, he would say to them, "The chief of the town to assess the taxes is here." And he spoke in cryptic. Today, he will slaughter the father in the presence of the son, and the son in the presence of the father, meaning that he's going to collect taxes, so you should hide. So, hearing his warning, everyone understood, and they would go into hiding. When the chief of the district would arrive to assess the taxes, Absei would say to him, "From whom should we demand so much money?" When Abzeidah passed away, was dying, he said to those that were around him, "Take the 13 ma that I have wrapped in my handkerchief and return it to so-and-so," meaning that they came to assess the taxes, and Abzeidah overlooked one of the people, and he didn't collect from him. And then he collected from him, and he wanted to submit it, to give it to the chief, and the chief didn't want to take it. So he could have put it in his pocket, nobody would have known. But he said, no, it was not taken. The shaklisum in I took it from him as taxes, but ultimately didn't need it it wasn't needed to pay for the taxes. They didn't ask for it.